Welcome to another episode of Sell Me This Pro, the show where we take a look at Tier 2 and Tier 3 Counter-Strike all over the world. And my co-host here, BDog, gives you the skinny on players that you need to keep an eye on and whether or not you should invest in them. And the last few episodes, we've kind of just shook things up lots. We've done 2 players here. We did a gazillion players in the last episode talking about Pro League. Upset my thumbnail designer very much. He had to change the entire logo of the show to fit in all the heads of players that we wanted to feature. But today we're going back to basics, doing it like we always do. We're focusing on one player, talk a little bit about their journey, a little bit about the teams they've been part of, and then at the end of this, BDog will try and sell them to you. So BDog, how are you doing? What's been up? I know that you are mad busy. You commentate so many games all the time. Every time I'm online, you are online commentating something.
Yeah, that's
pretty much.
That's been the story for quite a while, really, which has been, I mean, it's really good for me personally, just to be able to experience all the Counter-Strike and also like keep up to date in Tier 2 with what's going on. It's actually kind of weird. Like, I remember when we went to Morocco, for example, for IESF, and we spoke about that last episode. I was out of CCT for like a week, and I felt like I'd missed like chapters of what was going on in Tier 2. Everything moves so fast. So, yeah, commentating a lot, but excited to continue to do it, of course, and excited to be here recording with you. They made me giggle in the intro, actually. I will say a quick tangent where you said we keep mixing it up, and we did 2 pros the other time, and then we did like millions on the last episode. If you go back and read the description of our very first episode that we did, it says 2 players, probably the last time we do this, and then we have literally picked that up and we've gone, nah, we'll just keep messing about. But I've really enjoyed it. I think it's worked well with the events that have sort of coincided, and now, as you said, moving back into just one pro, but it will evolve into talking about multiple different ones. I think this is quite a good story because it's kind of at the heart of everything else that is going on.
For sure. And I mean, I was saving this for like our 10th episode, but I'll bring it up now, which is I actually do a whole other podcast called Challenged, which is like a precursor and a postcursor to the ESL Challenger events with Darth Mike. And we were recording an episode earlier, and he brought up this Tier 2 team from South America, and I felt horrible because I just wanted to be like, nah, they're probably not that good because BDog's never spoken about them on Sell Me This Pro.
What was the team?
That's where I was Odic.
Okay, no, I mean that's a fair one to bring up. I understand why he's talking about Odic, so I don't think they're going to a challenger.
They're going to be a challenger Atlanta, and I was like, meh, probably won't. I mean, whatever. They'll probably just be in the group stage. I was very dismissive, which could backfire on me at some point.
Sure.
To be fair, he was pretty dismissive as well, so that made me feel better. But I gauge Tier 2 teams now, where the BDog has sent me their names at some point, because we have a little Discord channel where he drops in all the players that he wants to talk about, and if I don't see that name, then I'm like, well, this particular team is not one to focus on. But who are we focusing on today? Because you do have a specific player that you want to target in on.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about TSM and sort of not so much how they're run, because that's an interesting debate, but we can maybe delve into a little bit. But you raise your eyebrows, you might ask questions about that, so that'll be fun. But Sirah, in particular, from MOUZ NXT, has moved over to this team, and you might be sat there thinking, well, why has that happened then? Because this TSM team, whilst it has been a little bit touch and go with the roster so far, they did make the RMR. The RMR is coming up fast, and you assume that roster changes will be made sort of at the end of the season or coming in from the previous one. And this has now presented itself. Sirah's made the move, Altex is out, and we can talk about it in more detail as to what's happened there.
We definitely are going to talk about it in more detail, but I am going to take you right back to the beginning because you saw me raise my eyebrows. You know I want to do this. TSM announces they're coming back into Counter-Strike at some point last year. And I believe, according to HLTV, since then, 16 is the number being thrown around. Player and coach changes that have happened. They came back to Counter-Strike, but couldn't find... I mean, they haven't found their footing. What if you were a player, to me it feels like a bit of a poison chalice if you go there because of all the changes. So I mean, in your opinion, I'm sure you've seen a lot, you've heard a lot. What has been going on there, do you think? Do you have any insights?
No, not like inside scoop. This is like what I've heard. This is more like me from an outside lens looking in. And from what I have like sort of gathered from watching various different like episodes and podcasts just on like esports and just organizations in general, when TSM came back, people seemed to just be in two minds. It was, oh, that's really cool. TSM, this was the team that obviously turned into Astralis. Like this means that this org has got like rich roots within CS. Like let's see what they can come back with. And the other half were just like, don't care. And when they first made this like international roster, it provided good opportunities for players that were either on the rise or had experience. But I think the whole goal for that roster at the time was to make the RMR and to make the major and get sticker money. That's kind of what it felt like. Because you had Cypher, who had just come off the ITB run in Paris. You've got the experience in there from Jax, Inters. You've got Modo, that is quite a malleable AWPer that hasn't really found his foot in. And then you've got Valda, and it's like, okay, you've got all this experience. You've got Cypher, who's an exciting prospect, needs to be picked up somewhere, and now has gone to Bleed. That's a whole separate conversation. But Cypher, for me, I was excited. I was like, okay, TSM, they know what they're doing because I brought in Cypher. The rest of it didn't make sense, and then it was quite clear and evident that the roster didn't make sense because it didn't succeed anything. It looked like they hadn't really done their research. It looked like, oh, if we just stick some new guys that did okay and put some old guys in that we know will do well, that will just work. And it didn't. And I don't know, that roster seems just pretty messed up. And I think it's the same story kind of with this recent Danish one. Like it feels like the objective in mind is to make the major and to sort of get the bag with the stickers is kind of what I'm getting from it, to be honest. And I could be completely wrong. I wish I was wrong, to be honest. And I hope I am. But that's kind of just from me stepping back and looking at it. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks just a bit like they don't really care.
Kind of how I feel about it, if I'm honest, which is concerning for the player we're going to be talking about because of the movies made. We'll get into that. Because on the other side, though, MOUZ NXT, you brought them up. For me, this is the textbook example of what an academy team needs to look like. They did such great work with, I mean, the players that they now have in the MOUZ lineup who are playing at, granted, pro leagues and currently on the way. Let's not talk about what happened there. But for the most part, from a consistency point of view, they had these young players. They have this coach. They all move up from the academy. They move from MOUZ NXT. And they dripped them up. So it wasn't like just one big move. And you can see the path to pro so beautifully reflected, which is for me what an academy team should look like. I think a lot of organizations have academy teams because it ticks a box and it gets them sponsors and it makes people happy. This is an organization that actually used this to develop new talent, feed them into the main roster. And from what we've seen, even though a lot of those big names went on to play in MOUZ, the MOUZ NXT team continues to find talent. I think they recently had some guys move over to OG. Like, they are consistently turning over players. It's a really good place to be, I would argue, if you are a young up-and-coming player. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think if you make MOUZ NXT, the expectation is you will go and perform at the top end of tier 2 or be in tier 1. That's the expectations that MOUZ NXT has when they've built this organization, and also just how much success they've had, as you said, with the main team. I think a big part of it comes from the structure and the hierarchy that MOUZ NXT have got within the way they operate their team. And they operate this team like it's its own separate team. And they will enter MOUZ NXT into any other tournament that the main team aren't competing in. And I think that is brilliant. And I see there are some organizations that we will touch on in a moment that are following in the same footsteps. But they were the real pioneers of, this is our academy team. We want them to have the most experience. We want them to be the most ready. We want them to be the most prepared possible, so that when an opportunity arises, they can go if the main team comes knocking, say there's an issue for whatever reason, visa, personal, otherwise, we've got a very good replacement. We can then step in. They also look for new opportunities for these guys to see if they need it. Remember when Heroic went boom? Remember when Cadian left and you needed to sort of have these stand-in situations with online cups? Who stood in? It was MOUZ NXT players. Who was one of those players? Sirah, who's now on TSM. So it's the way they operate the academy team. It's like they're not an academy team. They're just under the operational banner of MOUZ, and they're playing as their own entity, which I think works really well because you're deconstructing sort of, okay, this is an academy team, but we're treating it on par, if not basically a little bit, tiny bit below the main team. And the whole goal is to gather talented youngsters to give them a platform to see if they'll do well in tier 2 and beyond. But it isn't just, if you don't work out in 3 weeks, see you later, like we'll just get another one. They invest so much into them. I think they put them on various boot camps before as well. Like, and Tobiz is a big part of this. Tobiz, the coach, who's now currently turned player because MOUZ NXT are currently going for a rebuild. There's rumors on Twitter whether MOUZ NXT are just completely done. I hope they're not. I don't think they are, but Twitter will be Twitter. But yeah, this team's fantastic. The whole way it's run from top to bottom, this is how you should operate an academy team.
Do you think that there's not enough opportunities for academy teams though? Because I was thinking about this, and I think like the WePlay Academy, when that was running, like we need more of that. Like I would love to see next year, there's all these tournament organizers doing all this crazy shit, and like everyone's throwing massive money into these massive events. But wouldn't it be cool if someone went, hold on, there's going to be this influx of events. There's going to be this overlap. Everyone's running to all of these events. Why don't we focus in on like and run an academy league? Like have a setup where these academy teams can compete in a different setting. Do you think that that's needed? Or do you think now that we are going to go to an open circuit, none of this actually matters because there's going to be more than enough opportunities for those academy teams?
It's a good question. I think it's got validity because we had WePlay Academy and we had the firstly WePlay Academy. I hope will come back one day because I think it is absolutely brilliant to what that did and what that set the wheels in motion for. Because I think without an opportunity like that, we have now not really we've now realized more potential of what academy teams can do. A counterpoint to that though is look at all the teams that your main team, if you're an esports organizer, I doubt many of you will be watching this video. If you are, hello. If you are a main team and you're playing in like tier 1 S tier events like Cologne, Pro League, like the major, right? That's the main opportunity the academy teams will miss out on is the major and like the pinnacle of CS. But at this point in their career, they're not ready for the pinnacle of CS. And like that's not me being horrible. Like unless you are Munacy or Donk, like good luck. But guess what? They all came from academy teams too. The thing is, you've got CCT, you've got Fast Cup that's going on at the moment. If your team's not going to be competing in Elisa, for example, you could throw them in there. Like, there are so many Tier 2, Tier 3 tournaments that are running concurrently. European Pro League, there's another one. Like, there's 4 right there off the bat that you can enter. CCT, for example, has got 20 European series in Season 2 that they're running. We're currently on number 12 or whatever. But it's been going all year. MOUZ NXT have been in a lot of them. I can think of loads of academy teams that are following their footsteps now, that are getting the reps, are getting the experience. I've lost track of my points. I was thinking of all the academy teams. Aurora Youngblood, Monty Gen, Spirit Academy are now coming back in there. Ents Academy play in this league as well. Like, there's lots of them. I'm probably missing a couple more. But it'd be cool. I think it'd be really cool to have that tournament back. And that's why I hope WePlay Academy League comes back. If you're ESL, PGL, I don't think there's much of a need for it. Blast could maybe do something similar because they are doing the bounty thing. I think that'd be quite cool. But there is so much opportunity in tier 2, tier 3, and if your main team's never going to enter them, like, it makes sense for you just to play as much as you can. And I think we said this a few episodes ago. I'll repeat it again. When MOUZ NXT were playing CS, like in 2023, 2024, because they're currently on a little bit of a hiatus right now, but they if you go on HRTV, you went on like ranking, like team stats, you ranked it by maps played. MOUZ NXT were always like top 3, top 5. Like they were always there. They were getting so many reps, so much experience. And there was even a bit where I think MOUZ NXT at some point qualified to Challenger League. They got that high in an ESEA Advance, and they couldn't do it because obviously MOUZ NXT playing in the not MOUZ NXT, MOUZ main teams playing like the main one, but there are so many opportunities, and you don't want to waste them really. And I don't think teams are now. I think we are seeing a lot of academy teams going in the right way now.
We mentioned how great MOUZ NXT was, what they've been able to do, but like you mentioned, some rumors floating around, a little bit of a hiatus. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's the end of this? Do you think it's a rebuild? Do you think there's any validity in the rumors? Where's your head at?
So the way MOUZ NXT typically has worked is that a few players at a time leave the project and go to various different things. And previously it was everyone pretty much went to the MOUZ main team. The only one that kind of didn't out of MOUZ NXT, the original project, was Shane, who's now playing in Copenhagen Wolves. Then MOUZ NXT did a complete rebuild. Remember, MOUZ NXT have also had Yimfat, they've also had Slend. Like they've had all these players that are now in tier 2, tier 1. Like the blueprint is phenomenal. The point is that they build like cores at a time. And I think now you've lost the IGL because Krizen has gone to OG. QQ was in the class with like Yimfat, Slend. He's in OG. And now you've lost, your IGL and the most recent one, Krizen. You've then got Sirah that's gone to TSM. Nateju will get a team. There's been a lot of high praise about Nateju recently from like the French tier 1 pros, which has been really good to see because he is a fantastic player. And I imagine Bermilov will be picked up as well by a pretty decent team. I imagine that this is not the end for MOUZ NXT. They will rebuild, but their rebuilds will take time because they want to make sure they've got the right players. And when you've set so much for pedigree and when you've got such a high track record, you're not going to find players instantly. You're going to take your time and do your research.
Why would you leave MOUZ NXT, an academy team which we've spoken very highly of, but everyone else does as well, an academy team that clearly has some trading value with big name orgs, an academy team that is known to feed up into their main roster? Why would you leave MOUZ NXT to go to TSM?
So
And
I don't.
I know
Sorry,
that I mean, I just, it doesn't, I understand the need to move out of an academy lineup. Going into TSM means that you can obviously play in the close qualifiers for the RMR. You can get into the RMR, you can get into the major, you can make some sticker money. But I said it right at the start that TSM comes with a whole bag of scary stuff that we've seen online and concerns and things like that. So do you think it is just the drive for a player to go, hell, I'm going to take the risk because there is a potential bigger reward at the end of this?
I think there's actually a lot of external things people will often overlook when players make moves. And I think the best parallel we can draw to this would be Hampus recently going on loan from Bleeds to Johnny Speeds. And it is the same caliber of team effectively because you're in tier 2. But why would you leave Bleed, a team that has got, I'd imagine, pretty decent salaries? You're working with Kassad. You were on the right path. Kassad's built this team where you've got, at the time, it was Hampus, Cypher, Nork, Jakem, like really good teammates. Like, where do we go from here? Where do you make the move? Why would you do that if you're Hampus? And Kassad tweeted, I always have said, and the agreement with Hampus is, if he wants to go to an all-Swedish lineup, I won't stop him. And the relationship's been good. So Hampus saw that there was an opportunity to play with Johnny Speeds, a team that I don't even think is salaried at the moment, because he wanted to play in an all-Swedish team. Sirah has got all this experience with MOUZ NXT, and this could be a reason he wanted to go to a full Danish team. He maybe enjoyed what he saw when he was playing in that Rubet tournament last year with Heroic. And he was like, oh, I'm playing and speaking Danish. Also, the project has got the IGL that you have belief built a system with, now disappeared, going to OG. And then you've got all that context of for a player to have an opportunity to join an all-Danish lineup, to play at the RMR way sooner than he probably anticipated because he was in with MOUZ NXT. Now the opportunity to potentially qualify for these big tournaments and go and compete with the likes of MOUZ if TSM make it that far. And you can attend your first major at, what, 17 years old? It almost feels like an opportunity too good to kind of let slip. You're also playing with Valda. You are playing with Nico, Acor, who've experienced a lot. Acor at the Paris Major was in the final. Like, these guys have got experience. These guys have got I wouldn't say longevity in their career because some of them are getting on a bit now, but they've got tenure. They know how to win games. They know what is needed to take the next step. And if you're Sirah, you're looking at this, and it is appealing because I think that you could learn a lot from being with these players, no matter how long it's for. And also look at the resurgence of Zyphon in this team, because Zyphon was on Copenhagen Flames. He was one of the pieces that was kind of cast to the side, was never picked up and brought into Tier 1. All his potential was unbelievable. He then joined Sprout. Unfortunately, that turns into a little bit of a shit show because Sprout have to shut down the organization. And he's lost and he doesn't really know where to go. And towards the end of Sprout, he wasn't playing that well. And you can add in all this context and be like, well, that explains why he wasn't playing the way he was. He then goes to TSM. He then joins these guys. And the blueprint for TSM, again, very similar to when they made the international project, is 3 experienced guys and 2 newer ones, because Zyphon's still incredibly young. Resurgence of Zyphon has been unbelievable. He was carrying them single-handedly in the close quali games from 0-2 down to make the RMR. He's one of the hottest talents, I think, in Denmark, coming up in Tier 2, Tier 1.5 right now. You want a chance to go and play with him? Hell yeah! Like, I think there's a lot of good things that you can point to and think it makes sense why Sirah wants to make this move, especially if MOUZ NXT are looking to rebuild anyway. And I think some of the tweets, I need to be fact checked on this, but I remember some of the tweets at the time of the players saying, because Krisen's left, we're free to explore other options. We're kind of having a little bit of a think about our futures whilst MOUZ NXT is kind of in this flux of rebuilding. So if there's greener pastures on the other side, for example, Krisen, why isn't there greener pasture on the other side for players like Sirah and Nature?
What is it about Sirah that caught your attention? Because you've obviously now been watching him for a year in MOUZ NXT. You've seen a lot of him. What was it that you thought stood out?
To be honest with you, it's the things. It's actually quite similar to BDogCS, where you can take a look at this player and he's like a very comfortable, consistent piece. And it was always never the conversation about, will Sirah show up and perform? It would be like, when's he going to have a good map in this series? When's it going to be the Sirah taking over? And towards the end of the first half of 2024, he was creating a lot of space. He's an entry player. He takes space really well. I think what catches my eye is, in particular, is obviously MOUZ NXT are a very drilled team. So when you go into Pro Tools on your T side, it's evidenced how much they've sort of rehearsed that offline, because his entry path in is so deliberate that he tries to optimize the most amount of space possible to be taken on the bomb site. And he's got a very high, like, if you want to talk stats, he's got a very high opening kill stat line where he will just sort of run in and make the most of converting the opportunity to find the opening kill into an opening kill success. And that's so important because if you want to use numbers, it's something like 70% of the time, if you get the opening kill in Counter-Strike, you're going to win the round at pro level. So he's very valuable because if he can get the opening kill, then suddenly you've got space, whether that's on the site, whether that's in towards middle. I remember Ancient T-sides all the time for MOUZ NXT. He'd go over towards Cave, he'd get the opening kill every single time. So his T-sides are what are really appealing whenever you watch him. He just is that reliable factor of MOUZ NXT will get into the bomb site because at some point Sirah will find a kill or two.
Here's the thing though, when you change to a different team, certain things change up as well, right? Dynamics change, roles change. We've seen it time and time again. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Do you think what you've just spoken about when it comes to Sirah, is it going to transition into TSM with this Danish lineup? Do you think it'll be better because he's sitting in an all-Danish lineup, which is obviously something that he probably chose. And also, we all know Denmark's a very small country, so most of the Counter-Strike guys all know each other and they play a lot together as well. Are you expecting similar from him? Do you think his style's going to change up at all?
I think he might be unleashed a little bit more. I think that they'll give him a little bit more responsibility, because in terms of the amount of times he opens, I'm just literally looking at the stats from a second monitor. He actually only goes for opening kills like 21% of the time. But he 50-50 whether he gets it or not. But still, 20% of the whole team's opening kills is still quite a lot. But I think where you utilize him here especially is you get Valder obviously in-game leading. You've got A-Core that can sort of hold an angle and like let Sirah work potentially, but you put Zyphon just behind him. And between these two, that is really explosive. And I think if you get that dynamic working together, I think that'll be a lot more on. And I think that's what they wanted. I think they wanted Altex to be that guy that sort of worked together with Zyphon. The issue with Altex, which is a shame because I actually really like Altex as a player, it was just his inconsistency. And he was being a little bit on the downward trend more recently. And I think the TSM, they would have happily stuck with Altex, but this opportunity in the market presented itself. Do you want to go for Sirah, who has played like I think the official definition is like a fuckload of officials this year, and has played loads of teams all at this level and a little bit beyond, where MOUZ NXT were making deep runs, to the point where he's going to know how to play against these guys. You can see by the amount of officials MOUZ NXT play, his work ethic is going to be through the roof. He's going to want to learn. He's going to want to impress. Now he's got a new opportunity to have the major. He's going to be hungry. He's going to be so hungry. So I think it will actually work out better. I think we're going to get better numbers out of Sirah now he's joining this team.
We're at that point. This is my favorite point of the show. It's where the financial aspect comes in, which we kind of, I don't really know if we use it all that well. We kind of just throw it around because it's fun.
We just throw it about.
We just throw it about. There was a whole concept around penny stocks and stuff, and BDoc had really like written it out and made it really good and had a plan, and I just didn't follow it because that's what I do. But the original idea was to talk about investing, whether or not this is a worthwhile sort of sit on it for a little bit, and ultimately we would try and convince BDog to sell us this pro. So the question is, can you sell me this particular pro? Is this worth a little bit of a punt? Or do you think this is one of those situations where, because I am curious based on what you've said, I should push a lot of money in now because it'll probably, hopefully, they do well in the RMRs, they get into the major, I make some cash, but then I pull everything out as fast as possible. I mean, where are you sitting with this particular player on TSM specifically, BDog?
On TSM specifically, this is an opportunity that they could not pass down when it came to investing in Sirah in the short term. And I think in the short term, specifically on TSM for Sirah, it is a good idea to invest in him now, and sort of draw your attention towards him right now, because I think this honeymoon period will be very good. And I think the honeymoon period has got a potential to last to the major cycle, because what Sirah gives you is consistency, and that's what this team needs. Because whenever I look at TSM, and whenever I've casted TSM in the last sort of month and a half, 2 months even, I've always said the same thing. If you are a regular viewer of any tier 2 Counter-Strike, you would have heard this already, and I'm sorry in advance, but I say TSM play fundamentally the best Counter-Strike in tier 2. It's just sometimes they have their off days. Sirah will not have as many off days as the rest of TSM because of the amount of officials he's played, because of the drive and the values ingrained in him from MOUZ NXT. This MOUZ NXT success story when it comes to developing talents and moving them on, look at how many players, graduates from MOUZ NXT Academy, are now in tier 1 and now at the top of tier 2. It's a pretty damn good track record. Sirah is going to be another one of these names that you add to the list and think, damn, this guy potentially made his first ever major, playing an incredibly high value. I think that it is a really good idea to keep your eye on TSM and Sirah in particular, and I would absolutely invest right now.
Right now, you would invest. I mean, long term, do you see Sirah popping up a lot more? Do you think that's a name we'll be talking about outside of this year as we move into next year in that open circuit?
I hope so. But again, it's one of those things that you have to add in context of how will the major go? After the major cycle, what's the journey with TSM? What do these careers look like for all of these players? Will they stick together? Will there be other opportunities arriving based on what happens at the major, for example? Because after the major, there's a lot of moves that come about. I could definitely see Sirah joining like a tier 1.5 team. Like I'd be sort of silly if I didn't say like he could easily slot into a gamer legion. He could slot into a new entry build, for example. He could slot into, I would say Monte, but they're now gone full Polish, so maybe not Monte. But you get my point. Like all these teams, he could definitely slot into. This won't be the last we'll see as Sirah. I expect him to be in tier 1 in on a consistent basis within a year and a half, 2 years.
There we go. Straight from BDog. You know what I was thinking is just before the RMR starts, hear me out. I had a little fun idea. I don't know when we would get it in, but I think just before, or we must wait until after the RMRs. But I think it might be fun to sit down and do an episode where we go back through all the pros we've looked at this year.
Should.
And just maybe we do it at the end of the RMRs because then we've got a chance to see how they go just before the major. We'll have to align our schedules, but I feel like that might be a fun one to go back and say, okay, we said this about this player and that player. Let's see how it played out at the end. So maybe something that we can do in the future because we just change things up all the time, come up with these new twists. So that'll be something. But in the interim, let us know what you think of Sirah. If you've had a chance to see him, you can also rage about TSM. I'm sure you'd like to do that as well in the comments and give us some insight into what you're thinking. And also, I'm about to do this, BDog. I hate it when people do this, but I'm going to do it because fuck, let's just try. If you did enjoy this, and if you're enjoying the series, do me a sneaky favor and hit the share button and send it over to the Reddit page because we don't want to be those people that post it on Reddit because that's weird when you post your own stuff. Like it looks a little bit sad. So if you loved it, I'm just going to ask you to post it. And now I feel dirty for even doing that, but there you go. I did it, BDog.
Before we go, how good's Lake? How good's Lake, guys? I told you. I fucking told you.
You actually did. I forgot to even bring that up because you did. You said it. You called it. This is off topic because I know we're supposed to be talking about a pro, but holy hell, how is it that M80 can find all the talent in North America and Complexity can't? BDog's like, I don't want to play this game.
I don't want to answer that right now. I'm quite happy that my prediction actually worked. So we're good.
You're good. We'll leave it at that. Lake is fantastic. I've just flamed Complexity, and we will see you next week for another episode.